In yesterday's game against the Minnesota Vikings, the Chicago Bears started off absolutely on fire. On the offensive side of the ball, they drove right downfield and scored a touchdown. On the defensive side of the ball, they forced multiple 3-and-outs. They gave multiple sacks on the first couple of drives. And the Bears look like a Super Bowl caliber team early on in that game, only for that to kind of fade away. And today we're going to talk about some of the struggles that the Bears had, because I think they're definitely fixable struggles. There were some guys that absolutely flashed out there, and I want to talk about all of these different guys. We're really excited to kind of get into the tape in this video. Let's talk about Caleb Williams and just kind of start it off right there. You know, Caleb Williams yesterday had some plays where you look and say, that is damn impressive. Guys in his face, and he's hitting DJ Moore for 22 yards. Or maybe there's a design play and the initial read kind of gets taken away, and bam, he's out of there. And he keeps his eyes downfield, and he hits Odeyingbo for 17 yards like this one, 3rd and 5 here. This was on the first drive of the game. You know, you look at Caleb Williams here, the play is designed to go to either DJ Moore or Zacchaeus. You got the angle route here, and it looks like that should have been where Caleb Williams was looking to go. But it gets double teamed, it gets taken away, and Williams gets out of there, right? He creates plays with his legs, and this is kind of the magic of a guy like Caleb Williams. He's able to get out of the pocket, he's able to keep his eyes downfield, and he's able to make plays. And yesterday, Williams had a pretty damn good game, right? 21 of 35, 210 yards and a touchdown through the air. He also had 6 carries for 58 yards on the ground. So generally speaking, Williams had a pretty damn good game. It was efficient. Now, obviously, there were misses. There were moments where the Bears weren't able to kind of sustain drives. And there's also improvement that has to be made by Caleb Williams. You know, for as good as he is with his legs, as good as he is creating plays, and also, I should just kind of note this, you know, Caleb Williams built out his offensive lineman multiple times yesterday. There are multiple plays where the left tackle gets beat and Williams makes a guy miss and he kind of gets out of the pocket and he ends up running and turning a negative play into a positive play. There are moments where the offensive line don't pick up a defensive line stunt and Williams creates that play with his legs. So there are moments where this guy built out the offensive line, but there were also moments where Caleb Williams just missed people and it had huge impacts on the outcome of the game. Now, of course, if you're the quarterback, you'll get the most praise for winning, but you also get the most praise for losing. And praise isn't the right word, but you'll get the most blame for losing. Take this first play right here as an example. This is the second drive of the game. This is 3rd and 2. The Bears actually do a pretty good job on this drive, kind of getting downfield. And you get a 3rd and 2, and this is a very, very routine pass. You should be able to hit this play, and Caleb Williams actually throws this behind the wide receiver, and you lose 4 yards on 3rd and 2. You end up in a 4th and 6, and now you punt the football. That's an awful throw right there by Caleb Williams. You have to be able to make these plays. Now, I'm not sure if Odeyingbo runs the wrong route, to be honest with you, because it doesn't really make sense that he's on the outside and he's running upwards, and DJ Moore's on the inside and he's trying to get out there and block that corner. Even if Odeyingbo catches this, it looks like the corner would have potentially been close to making the play. I'm not 100% sure, right, to be honest with you guys, but it is a bad pass. You got to be able to hit this in stride. Now, that pass, you punt the football, it's not the end of the world. The Bears actually had another drive. On the 3rd drive, it was a very solid drive. They sustained it. They essentially drove right downfield, and they're in range to kick a field goal. They get into a 4th and 3, and the Bears decide to go for it. Instead of taking the field goal, the Bears are going to end up getting DJ Moore an opportunity, and DJ Moore gets wide-ass open. Ben Johnson designs a phenomenal play, and Caleb Williams is going to throw this ball high. So 4th and 3, you could have kicked the field goal. Keep in mind, the Bears lost literally by 3 points. Could have kicked that field goal right there, but the Bears decided to kind of go for it, which I think is the right decision, right? You want to score touchdowns, not field goals. If it's only 3 yards and you're on the 27-yard line, go for it. Try getting those first downs. Try getting that touchdown. And truth be told, it was a nicely designed play, and Williams just missed it high. So those are little moments where Caleb Williams has to be better in terms of ball placement. There was not any pressure. He had a clean pocket. The ball just went super high on him. And I saw this happen a couple of times. There was a 2nd and 10. Williams is pressured on this one, so I understand that's going to speed up the internal clock a little bit. He's going to get out of the pocket, and he has Zacchaeus running wide open down the right sideline. And again, the ball just sails high. Now, I'm not exactly sure how Caleb Williams misses some of these throws because generally speaking, he's not a guy that I feel like missed throws in the past, right? Especially on the run. He's not a guy that struggled with ball placement. So I'm not exactly sure how he's struggling a little bit with some of these passes. And I'm not nitpicking like, hey, he only had 3 bad plays. There are other plays where he just missed wide open guys, or, maybe the ball sails high or sails out of bounds. There are moments where I felt like Caleb Williams probably wishes he had that ball back. If Williams just hit on some of these passes, he would have probably had over 300 yards. again, these are little things that you can clean up if you're a quarterback, and I'm pretty sure he will clean this stuff up, right? It's the stuff that's just, basic stuff. Ball placement is very easy to kind of clean up. I also think with the Bears, you're bringing in new weapons, you're bringing in new offensive linemen, you're bringing in a new scheme on the offensive side. It's going to take time for it to really come together, right? You shouldn't expect the Bears to come out and be like 5-0 in the first 5 weeks. This game sucks because, you start off hot and you end up losing. But Caleb Owens was not the only reason that the Bears ended up losing this game. I think Jonah Jackson was arguably the worst offensive lineman I watched this weekend of all the teams that I've kind of analyzed. And let's go ahead and talk about him a little bit. There are multiple plays where this guy just lost reps. And, the Bears obviously struggled yesterday to run the football. And I think Jonah Jackson had a huge part of this. Now, it wasn't him on every single play, right? Because there were some plays where, like, the left tackle struggled or the center struggled or a tight end misses a block or a receiver doesn't get to his guy. There were definitely moments like that yesterday. But I could count probably like 6 or 7 snaps where Jonah Jackson misses a guy and the play picks up 0 yards or loses yards. To me, you can't have this happen. It's one thing if your offensive lineman has like 4 or 5 losing snaps over the course of a game. Jonah Jackson had 15 losing snaps yesterday according to Pro Football Focus Ultimate. And Pro Football Focus Ultimate is different than like the general PFF that most people have access to. Ultimate is mostly used for NFL teams. And, I have access through a college team that I scout for. And I looked at some of these stats, and 15 losing snaps is absolutely ridiculous. Jalen Carter had 16 plays where he won, and that was considered one of the greatest games ever. This was last year at some point. So having 15 losing snaps is really, really, really poor. And the tape backs it up. You can look at the 15 snaps through the Ultimate product, and you can watch this guy just getting his ass kicked out there. He had multiple pressures that he gave up. I'm not saying bench this guy because it's still only week 1. You don't want to overreact. Jonah Jackson is a good offensive lineman, or at least in the past, he's kind of proven to be it. I know he had some injury issues that kind of happened in camp. He missed some time. But this guy has to get right for week 2, or the Bears are better off rolling forward. Luke Newman looked really good out there. Ryan Bates is still out there for the Bears as well. Maybe he's an option. Jonah Jackson needs to get it cleared up because you can't have that many losing snaps. 15's a lot. For perspective, Joe Thuney had 5 losing snaps yesterday. Darnell Wright had an incredible game. He only had 2, which probably is not normal, to be honest with you guys. Braxton Jones was pretty solid in my opinion. But to also be fair, the Bears did help Braxton Jones a lot. There were so many plays where they were double teaming, they're chipping his guy, whether it's the tight end or the running back. There were multiple plays where Braxton Jones was getting that help. So I do think that's something you have to kind of factor in when you watch the tape of some of these guys. I do think Braxton Jones was solid. I don't think he needs to be replaced. I think it was a smart decision to roll forward with him as the starter. Let's talk about Darnell Wright a little bit. I think Darnell Wright is probably a top 5 right tackle at this point. Now, there's guys that get a bunch of hype on the internet, right? Like Joe Walt's a great example of this. People like hype him up so much on the internet. He's a good football player, but some guys just get more hype than others. And I don't know why this happens. And Darnell Wright's on the opposite side of that. He's never going to get hyped. For whatever reason, people just don't talk about him. But Darnell Wright is one of the best offensive tackles in the NFL. The guy had a phenomenal game. He played over 60 snaps yesterday, 0 quarterback hits, 0 sacks, 0 pressures. Just generally, no pressures at all. 43 pass blocking snaps specifically. Yesterday, Darnell Wright had probably one of his best games of his career. In pass pro, the guy was phenomenal. He just shut down whoever the guy was that kind of went across from him. He just shut him down. He had a very, very clean game yesterday. I do think he was penalized twice. I think one was a false start. The other one was actually a holding penalty. Snatching a guy down is not a hold. And it is unfortunate because, the speed of the game is so fast. An NFL referee sees a guy kind of falling down and maybe a guy's in some sort of like hold position, right? Because snatch kind of looks like you're pulling a guy down. And the referee called the penalty when Darnell Wright just snatched the guy down. It was just a really, really nice rep by Darnell Wright. To me, that's a winning rep. He got called for a hold. I don't agree with it. I also do think penalties played a part in the Bears losing. That play right there had a huge impact because instead of being able to gain, like 5, 6, 7, 8 yards, which they gained with the pass, they end up going back 10 yards. And speaking of penalties, let's switch focus and talk a little bit about some defensive guys. Dayo Odeyingbo looked really, really good yesterday. But he was penalized twice as well, and I didn't agree with either of the two penalties. Now, the penalties may not have really flipped the game, but there were still two penalties that got called. The first was a roughing the quarterback in. Dayo hit the quarterback around the neck. I did not think that should have been penalized. I didn't think at any point that, it was excessive. I didn't think he hit the quarterback in the actual head. I don't think hitting a quarterback in the neck area is illegal, right? So he got flagged 15 yards for that one. And then he got flagged for another play. And I think this one was even worse. He got flagged for an illegal use of hands. He long-armed the right tackle on this one. And because of the fact that he got that hand so well into that like shoulder pad area, he pushes those pads up into the neck. He long arms this guy perfectly, and Dayo has long arms, right? So when he gets those hands into guys are going to struggle. They're going to lean back. It's going to look like he has his hands in the face, but he didn't on this one, and he generated pressure. He beat this guy. I think those penalties do kind of help flip this game. Caleb Williams missed passes, right? The 4th down play and the 3rd down play, I think, also kind of impacted this game a little bit. But let's talk a little bit more about some of these defensive guys. Dayo Odeyingbo yesterday looked phenomenal. 47 snaps, he had 6 pressures, which included a quarterback sack, 1 quarterback sack, and 2 quarterback hits. But the plays that don't get counted are the plays he doesn't make. And Gervon Dexter on the first drive of the game got a sack. But that sack was created by Dayo Odeyingbo, right? This guy ends up beating his guy with a phenomenal bull rush, long arm to swim move, and he generates pressure, and the quarterback's trying to run away from Dayo, and Gervon Dexter just wraps it up. Not that Dexter doesn't do anything, right? He still gets the sack, but this sack is created by Odeyingbo. Without him, the sack does not happen. On the second drive that the Vikings had the football, right? The first play was on 3rd down. The second drive on the next 3rd down, right? Very next drive. Once again, bull rush, swim move, sacks the quarterback. Those are 2 really good plays on the first couple of drives that the Vikings had the ball. 3rd down is when you need your pass rushers to step up. And this guy stepped up, and then he was able to help generate a sack on the first one, and he actually gets the sack on the second one. Over the course of this game, Dayo had multiple plays and multiple good run reps where he blows it up, right? He kind of gets after it. He tackles the running back for a loss. He had one play that was a pretty big play. It was a pretty big run play, but he drew the holding penalty on that play, right? He jumps inside, he gets held. Play goes back 10 yards. The drive ends because of the fact that they lose 10 yards on that drive. I know he was penalized twice, and you can kind of hold that against him if you choose to. But I think both penalties are kind of bullshit, to be honest. I think he had a phenomenal game. I think he was the best defensive lineman that the Bears had. Arguably the best defensive player that the Bears had yesterday. The guy was super disruptive. And it's kind of interesting because he was not that disruptive in preseason from what I remember, right? I didn't feel like this guy was making a ton of plays, getting after the quarterback, but he looked good yesterday. And I think for the Bears, it's all you can kind of ask for, right? You can ask for guys to step up when it matters the most, especially 3rd down defense. Gervon Dexter had a couple of really, really nice, high-quality wins. Although I think Dayo was the guy that kind of created those first 2 sacks, Gervon Dexter was right there as well on both sacks. The one that Dayo ends up actually bringing the quarterback. Now, Gervon Dexter's in the backfield. He's also kind of generating pressure on that play. Dexter had other plays where he got after the quarterback. Right, he gets to the quarterback. He beats the guy in front of him. Gervon Dexter looks good, and keep in mind, he only played in 34 plays yesterday, which I'm not sure why he only played in 34 snaps, right? I would think he plays close to every single snap for the Bears, but he only played in 37 snaps yesterday. Gervon Dexter definitely looks good as well. He's developed really well. I want to just give credit to 3 other guys as well, and I want to talk about Dennis Allen and his scheme a little bit as well, because I think he had a phenomenal game for the Bears as a coach on the defensive side. Jonathan Owens made a really, really nice play on the 2-point conversion. That was a key play right there, right? Because the Vikings wanted to get down by only 3 points. And because of the fact that Jonathan Owens sees the tight end kind of leaking into the flats, he is in man coverage as well, so it is technically his responsibility to make the play. But he made it. How many guys are in man coverage here and miss this block or miss this tackle, right? They miss the play. Maybe they get confused or whatever. A lot of guys, don't make that play. Owens only played in 10 snaps, and he made arguably one of the plays of the game that if the Bears had won, that play right there would have been one of the plays that helped them win. The linebackers, Terrell Edmonds, Noah Sewell also had great games. I look at the Dennis Allen scheme, and both linebackers look good out there, right? They do their job. There are a lot of moments where the Vikings, the quarterback looks down the seam and is right there. There are moments where you try running the football and Noah Sewell blows it up. There's moments where both of these linebackers are just making plays, right? Together, I think they had about 16 plays that they were credited with as making, right? So they're positive plays for the defense. 16 times these two guys made the positive play, right? Which is great because, 5 times Gervon Dexter will make a play. 5 times Montez Sweat will make the play. Over the course of the game, those are the type of things that win football games. It wasn't perfect. The defense still gave up 27 points, including 21 in the fourth quarter. But you can make the argument that, if the Bears offense had a little bit more success, you can make the argument that the defense would have also had a little bit more success, especially in the fourth quarter. The Vikings had the ball to start the fourth quarter, and they scored within, about 3 minutes into the fourth quarter. The Bears got the ball with 12 minutes left, and they didn't drive downfield. They didn't sustain a drive. They went 3 and out. The Vikings got the ball. They scored a touchdown. The Bears got the ball. They had one nice pass to Odeyingbo, 3 and out. Punt the ball. Vikings score again. So if the Bears are able to sustain drives a little bit better, I think the defense is also, essentially going to be a little bit better. Also, don't overlook the fact that, the Bears scored a touchdown on the first drive of the game. They did not score any touchdown after that until literally 2 minutes left in the football game. You're not going to win games this way. The Bears defense obviously had the pick six, which obviously gave them the 7 points scored in the third quarter. The offense did not score many points. Now, I think they had a field goal at the end of the first half, but it's not great what we saw from the Bears offense. They weren't able to sustain drives. And I think the big factor was the fact they were not able to run the football. The Vikings defense is an elite defense, so don't overlook that. The only concern I had was the fact that, although guys miss blocks, the Vikings are a 2-shell defense, right? They're not going to stack the box. They're going to play a light box. So the fact that you weren't able to run the football on a team that plays a light box, that's kind of concerning to me. So, Jonah Jackson has to do a better job as he's kind of out there. The tight ends have to do a better job with their blocks. And Ben Johnson just has to figure it out with which running back needs to be out there. DeAndre Swift, I think, is a really explosive running back. But if he's not having success, you got to go to a different running back. And again, I'm not saying to replace DeAndre Swift. I do think that the blocking was a much bigger issue. I think multiple guys just were kind of losing out there. Braxton Jones had some bad blocks as well in the run game. If I had to say one thing blew up the run game for this team, it'd probably be the combination of Braxton Jones as well as Jonah Jackson. I think together those guys probably had like 9 plays that ended up being blown up, with, of course, Jonah Jackson probably responsible for like 6 of those. I think the Bears will bounce back as we kind of go forward, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And let me know if you guys enjoyed the format of this video, or would you guys rather just me break down tape where I only just look at like the offensive line for the entirety of the game, where I only look at like, Gervon, Dexter, or Odeyingbo for the entirety of the game. Let me know if you guys enjoy this format as opposed to the other format. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. The Bears will bounce back. I'm very confident in it. Pretty sure the Vikings are a playoff team. So the fact that you're this close to a playoff team where one coaching staff has been in place for a number of years, the other one's kind of new, I think it's a good sign for the Bears. Let me know what you guys think. Comment below, and I'll see you guys next time with another video.